There is a woman who, using voodoo, turned the city of New Orleans into her kingdom, bewitching all its inhabitants and even frightening the church. She is known as the Queen of Voodoo, and it is said that there is no one in history who has as much power of the dark force as she does. Today, we tell you who she was and how she did it in her Draw My Life. A wealthy white businessman visited a woman, Marie Laveau, to help him save his son, who he claimed had been falsely accused of a crime. Marie went to St. Louis Cathedral with 3 guinea peppercorns in her mouth and prayed for 1 hour. Then she went to the town hall where the young man's future was being put on trial and put the peppercorns under the judge's chair. After this, the judge declared him innocent. The father was so grateful that he gave Marie a house in St. Anne Street, a house that would be her home until the day she died. Another notable incident was the public death penalty sentencing of 2 young people. Marie was against those executions that were so frequent in those times. While they were in prison, the woman went to visit the men and pray for them. The day of the execution had dawned with a great sun, and at noon, when the sentence was about to be handed down, the sky began to fill with clouds and pour rain, while everyone waited in the square for the guilty to be hanged. Suddenly, the men fell to the ground unharmed, the ropes having broken. And although the condemned finally suffered their punishment another day, it is said that thanks to this fact, Louisiana was the first state to prohibit public executions for fear of Marie's power. Another legend says that one of her greatest powers was that she grabbed the tongue of a cow and wrote on it the name of witnesses to crimes who had to attend a trial. And surprisingly, they were left without a voice to be able to testify. Was it black magic or fear that Marie would cast a real voodoo spell on them? Many condemned her as a witch, while others praised her as a saint. Marie Catherine Laveau, also known as the Queen of Voodoo, was born on September 10, 1794 in New Orleans. She became one of the most powerful women thanks to her knowledge of potions and sorcery. In their ceremonies, there were dances, drums were played, and the participants were possessed by spirits, while Marie officiated the ritual with her pet tied around her neck, which was neither more nor less than a huge snake. She was loved and feared in equal measure. It is said that the woman's power was so great that she had the ability to create enchantments and curses strong enough to reach up to a 3rd or 4th generation of descendants. However, she not only used her magic to do evil, she was very famous for her willingness to help those in need. Owner of a hair salon, she took advantage of this condition to find out all the gossip that the rich and not so rich women of the city told her. She listened to everything that could be useful to her in the future, learning many secrets that she would never know otherwise and from which she took advantage, for better or worse, as the case may be. Her clients didn't come to her store just to get their hair done or cut, but to request other types of services, such as voodoo dolls and potions. Marie also sold so-called grease bags, which were composed of herbs, spices, bones, stones, and other sacred relics. The special thing about those bags is that they were an amulet originally from Africa that protected them from the devil and attracted good luck. Since both rich women and their slaves told her their confidences, this gave her the power she needed, having knowledge that others believed she did not possess. She carried out individual consultations both in her home and in that of her clients. They explained their problems to her, and she supposedly consulted them with the spirits. It is said that it was relatively easy for her to find out certain things when she had already obtained, through confidences, prior information on the subject. She took advantage of all the information she collected and the large amount of DNA she obtained from clients' hair. No one risked opposing her or confronting her for fear that she would use her great gift against them. Moving away from the image we have of voodoo, in which we only relate it to black magic and the half-zombie state, as we have seen in hundreds of movies, the voodoo that Marie practiced also had the mission of healing diseases and helping those most in need. In fact, she only charged people with money for her services. She offered her help to slaves and the poor for free, without any type of payment or reward. Her grandmother and mother had great knowledge of herbs and their healing properties, something they passed on to her and which turned her into a kind of healer. At that time, there were many diseases that apparently had no cure or solution, and thanks to the remedies she manufactured, she managed to heal many people. This type of healing was considered miraculous and the result of its great power. Likewise, she also had a great knowledge of the substances that caused hallucinations, illnesses, and death itself. It was even said that Laveau was immortal and didn't age, staying very young over the years. A famous story that was passed down through generations described a voodoo ceremony in which the elderly Marie entered a hut, and where shortly after, a miracle occurred as she emerged with her physique young again. This lends credence to the theory that one of her daughters secretly replaced her. It is said that they were able to fool people by passing off one of her daughters, also named Marie, as her. The voodoo queen was aging, and since they both had a great resemblance, they made everyone believe that the years didn't pass by her. Thus, her daughter wore her clothes and followed in her mother's professional footsteps in hairdressing, which led everyone to think that Marie's powers were so strong that she would remain young and beautiful forever, having a supernatural gift. Meanwhile, Marie herself moved away from public life and focused on her prayers and on helping, above all, enslaved people of color with death sentences, comforting and guiding them spiritually, performing voodoo work for them. In most stories about the second Marie, it is said that she was a little more evil than her mother. It is mentioned that she was proud and moved a lot by entrepreneurial interest, making good use of it as a business and earning a fortune selling gree-gree. But how and when did Marie Laveau start practicing voodoo? To do this, we must go back in time. This story begins with her grandmother, Catherine, a slave who was taken from Africa when she was only 7 years old. The woman managed to buy her freedom from slavery, became a businesswoman, and owned her home, working tirelessly so that her children were also freed. Marie's mother was Discerntal Margetto, a former slave thanks to her grandmother, and his father, a wealthy businessman named Charles Laveau. Physically, Marie was a beautiful young woman with black hair, dark skin, and piercing eyes. She used to wear her hair covered with a cap made of brightly colored cloth. At the age of 18, she married Jacques Paris. Although they were both Catholics and were married in the Cathedral of St. Louis, it is said that even then the couple practiced voodoo. Although most researchers affirm that the marriage had no children, documents of the baptism of 2 girls appeared in the records of the Cathedral of St. Louis. Marie Angélie Paris, baptized in 1823, and Felicity Paris in 1824. The record of Felicity's baptism indicated that she was 7 years old at the time of her baptism, which would mean that she was born in 1817, 2 years before the marriage between Marie and her husband took place, something that was not considered correct at the time. Unfortunately, the girls' records end there. Along with the disappearance of the 2 little girls, was added that of her husband, who also disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Simply, one day, the man was no longer heard from without any further information or record of his death. From there, Marie called herself Widow Paris and began to openly practice voodoo. Around 1826, she began a new relationship with Louis Christophe d'Amnesly Le Glapion, with whom she is believed to have had 15 children, although records only list 7 and several of them died in infancy. Glapion came from a wealthy white family in New Orleans. There, interracial relationships were common, but the law prohibited them from marrying. Curiously, Glapion also died under strange circumstances, but their relationship helped Marie make her way among the women of the city's high society. That's when she opened her hair salon in downtown New Orleans. Marie attended Catholic Mass regularly. Her home was filled with images of saints, and she created a safe and secure space for all who lived with her or visited her. There is a theory that Marie was formed thanks to the help of 2 women. Sanité Dede, one of the most fearing New Orleans voodoo circles, and Marie Salope, another voodoo queen whom she would end up replacing. In her practices, Marie combined certain elements of Catholicism with African magic. Others say that she may have been initiated into voodoo by Dr. John, a Senegalese priest with great knowledge of these practices, but there is no certain information about this. In 1830, Marie Laveau was named Voodoo Queen. Her rituals were organized mainly in 3 places. The first of these was her house in St. Anne Street. That was where she spoke to clients who came to her for help. In the backyard, she had a ceremony place where she performed spells. The second place was Congo Square, a public square that was reserved as a meeting space for enslaved and free Africans. There, Marie used to meet them on Sundays to dance and pray. And the third and last place was Bayou St. John's, on the shores of Lake Pontchartrain, where the main ceremonies were held among those initiated into the religion. There, they sung, danced, played the drum, and the participants were possessed by a powerful spirit. In her rituals, she used to place a white cloth on the ground and various objects on top, such as rum, food, coins, or gifts for the spirits. She also had a series of assistants who assisted her in the ceremony. In addition, there was a priestess or priest who dressed in white or blue if it was a job with good intentions, or brown when the end was dark. Candles were lit in the corners that also varied in color depending on the ritual. Once they had made their request, they ended with frantic dancing and chanting. The woman performed her most extravagant ceremonies on St. John's Eve, the night of June 23rd to 24th. The celebration lasted until dawn with singing, dancing, bonfires, and lots of magic. And the government didn't like this, which had many prejudices against voodoo, considering it's something evil and related to the devil. Rumors began to circulate that people danced naked at this party, performing perverse rituals. So they tried to ban them and make people afraid to make pacts with their practitioners. Even Marie Laveau's death is shrouded in mystery. There are those who say that she died at 41 years old, but official New Orleans city records document the death of a woman named Marie Clapion Laveau on June 15, 1881, which would mean she died at age 86. She was buried in the St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, along with other members of her family. Her funeral was very well attended and people of all colors and social classes attended. Legend has it that if you approach Marie Laveau's grave, you knock 3 times on her tombstone to wake her up. Then you go 3 times around the grave and end up writing 3 X's on the stone. You can make a wish. If she grants it to you, you must return to her grave, circle the X's you drew, and give her a gift. Her tomb is visited by many faithful, being one of the great attractions of the city. Unfortunately, not all visitors are respectful, and there have been countless acts of vandalism at her grave. Other versions of the ritual say that the 3 X's must be done if the wish is granted. This may have been popularized due to the great deterioration that the tomb suffered when the faithful followers drew on the stone. In this way, it was reduced to only those who fulfilled their wish and returned. The authorities in the area have asked tourists to only draw the letters with their finger to make their wish, without scratching or painting the stone. In 2014, one of the biggest acts of vandalism took place. Someone painted the entire grave bubblegum pink, so they had to repaint it white on top. In addition to the obvious deterioration, some people stole stones from other graves to scratch the 3 letters on Marie's, and even stole the flowers of other deceased people to leave them as an offering. They put a fence surrounding the grave so that people would stop painting, but currently their followers continue to sneak in. Marie Laveau's story has inspired many songs, films, and television series. One of the best-known songs is Witch Queen of New Orleans by the group Redbone, or Marie Laveau by Dr. John. It also has a place in fiction because she has been represented in series such as American Horror Story or American Gods. The writer Robert Tallant wrote several works talking about Marie, but her followers rejected them and accused the author of giving a bad image of voodoo. His most famous work is Voodoo in New Orleans, published in 1947. In his books, he describes Laveau as an evil being who killed babies to perform her spells and who promoted sensual acts in her rituals. 10 years after the publication of his book, the author died mysteriously. While in his kitchen, he approached a piece of furniture and grabbed a glass. He filled it with tap water, and after a couple of sips, it fell to the floor. Many people interpreted this strange death as a punishment by the voodoo spirits for dishonoring them and Marie. The figure of Marie Laveau was so famous that it is almost impossible to distinguish which part of the Marie we know was real and which was myth. However, all historians indicate something that has represented her authentically, and that is that she was a powerful woman without being white, in a world dominated by white men. She was respected and feared, both by the poor and the rich, regardless of their social class. In short, one of the most important and influential people in the history of New Orleans, who continues to be remembered and made offerings to this day. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, and if you want to see more Draw My Life videos, subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode!